Rent to rent in Scotland is dead! Hello, my name is Dr. Giuseppe Paladini, I'm the founder of Stepping Bricks, and today we're going to talk about rent to rent both in England and in Scotland. I'm going to tell you the difference between the two. As I started this video, rent to rent in Scotland is almost dead. Now, why am I saying this? Well, rent to rent is a strategy where you take control of a property that is not yours, is from a landlord, then you can rent it into a higher cash flow strategy. So for example, you lease it from a landlord and then you turn it into either serviced accommodation, which is holiday let, Airbnb, booking.com, where you can rent the property per night, or HMO, housing on multiple occupation, which means that you're renting per room. So you're renting the property per room, not per night, but per room. So the two strategies are a lot higher cash flow strategies because they give you a lot more money than the money you're giving to the landlord as buy to let. So if you're renting it as a buy to let, let's say for example £600, £700, whatever it is, £1,000, depends where you are in the country, then as a buy to let it works that way. If you rent it per night, you might rent it for £100 a night, which means £3,000 a month. If you're renting it as an HMO and you have a 4, 5, 6 bedrooms property, then you're renting per room. It could be £70 a week or £100 a week, again depends where you are. So if you do £100 a week, just to make it square, and you have 5 properties, that's £500 a week times 4.2, which are the number of weeks in a month, and you can make your own calculation. You can see how much money you can make. Of course, this is gross, then you need to deduct all the expenses. In the HMO situations, you have to pay for all the gas and electricity and all the bills, internet, etc. But the cash flow is a lot higher. For the serviced accommodation, again, you pay for all the gas, electricity, internet, the cleaners, the changeovers, and so on. The platforms for booking.com, Airbnb, or if you have a good strategy for direct bookings, for example, where you don't pay any additional fees to the platforms, then of course you can make a lot more money. Now, in Scotland, and if you're in England, wait for it because I'm going to cover England in a second. In Scotland, with the new regulations, the new licensing scheme, serviced accommodation is a bit trickier because the moment you have a property, let's say you want to turn it into serviced accommodation, then you need to apply for the license to your council, and each council behaves differently, okay? They have completely different rules, different prices, different timeline. But let's say on an average, they can take up to 1 year, 12 months, 1 year to grant the license. You heard it right. You cannot operate until you get the license. So are you listening to this? You cannot operate until you get the license. So if you have a property that is your own and you want to turn it into a buy-to-let, that's fine. But if you want to turn it into a serviced accommodation, you need to apply for the licensing, which may take up to 12 months. So you had to wait until 12 months, or maybe they take 4 months, I don't know, but they say up to 12 months. You have to wait all this time with the property vacant. There is an issue with the property vacant. What's the issue? Well, number one, you pay for energy bills. You pay for council tax if it's empty. You can get an exemption for the first 6 months, but then you start paying. And you pay mortgage probably, if you have a mortgage, and lack of rent. So you're losing money if you have a vacant property. Don't think just because you don't have a mortgage, you're not losing money, because you're losing money on other things as well. That's if you have your own property. However, if you are rented a property, if you're leasing a property from another landlord, so it's a property you do not own, then you have to guarantee a rent to the landlord. Whatever you're offering, let's say you're offering market rent to the landlord, then you're offering 600, 700, £1,000, whatever it is that you are in the country. That means you have to commit to pay the rent for up to 1 year until you get the license. Now, in the past, you could just from night to day, you could just turn it into serviced accommodation easily. You just needed to prepare your listings on booking.com, Airbnb, HomeAway, now is VRBO, etc. And then you can have the bookings straight after that. Okay, my situation was the same. I was learning about serviced accommodation. I said, let me try this. I put the listings overnight, finished doing the listings at 4 in the morning. I went to bed because I was teaching as a lecturer at the university at that time. 8 a.m. woke up to prepare and everything. And in those 4 hours, I received the first booking of 7 nights, which was £700. So literally I was making money while I was sleeping. That was the case. That was my motivation to get started into property and have serviced accommodation as well in my toolbox as a tool. Nowadays you cannot do that anymore, because of course if you're leasing a property for somebody, if you are giving the rent to somebody because you are guaranteeing that rent in order to have this contract of 2, 3, 5 years, then you cannot wait for 12 months to run it as a serviced accommodation. What else can you do then? Some people say, well, I'll rent it as a buy-to-let, and then when I get the license, then I remove the tenants and put guests in. No, you cannot do it, because again, if you're in England, wait for it. In Scotland, you cannot terminate a tenancy whenever you want, because the PRT, Private Residential Tenancy Agreement, is forever. So if they want to stay forever, they will stay forever. Simple as that. They can give you 28 days notice to leave, but if they wish to stay and they're paying the rent on time, they're doing everything okay, they can stay in the property. They don't have to move out for you to run it as a serviced accommodation. That's in Scotland. Now in England, you have an advantage. And if you're not doing rent to rent in England at the moment, you're losing big opportunities, because you don't have the licensing scheme yet, and you can run it as a serviced accommodation just like that, like I did when I started out. So if you want to get involved in rent to rent, in serviced accommodation, get in touch. We have a club that run every single week. It's only £49 a month. You can get involved, you can learn everything about these strategies, and you can start making money properly. If you run it as an HMO, because we talked about serviced accommodation, the new licensing and so on, which by the way is going to come in England as well. So if you think you're lucky right now, don't worry, in England will come as well in a short time. So if you want to get involved with serviced accommodation, do it now. If you turn it into HMO, let's say you have a 4-bedroom house, you want to rent it to 4 different people or 5 different people, then you need to apply for the HMO license. And again, it can take up to 12 months as well. So again, please consider that, because that's the same in England as well. If you're doing an HMO, then also in England you need to apply for the license, and it can take up to 12 months. It generally takes a lot less, but you need to account for that. You can negotiate with the landlord. If you're doing a rent to rent, you can say, I'll pay you reduced rent while I'm applying for the license. At least you cover all your expenses. However, as soon as I get the license, then I can double up, or I can pay the rent arrears that I didn't pay you at the beginning because it was empty. So you can do that, you can negotiate, and probably the landlord will be happy with that. So if you're doing it as an HMO, remember, if the property you're buying had already an HMO license, you have more chances of getting the HMO license. However, you need to reapply because the ownership changed. So if you are planning to target properties that have already an HMO license on the market, you want to buy them, then you need to account for reapplying for the HMO license. Okay, don't think like, oh, this property has an HMO license, I can get it straight away. No, you need to prove that you are going to respect all the rules and regulations for running it as a house of multiple occupation. So again, I hope this video has been useful. If you like, subscribe and share it with anybody that can benefit from the content. We have as well a Facebook group. It's called Stepping Bricks Property Community. Go there and enter into the group so we can share a few insights. If you want to join the club, we'll put the link in the comments. My name is Dr. Giuseppe Paladini. I'm the founder of Stepping Bricks, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye for now.